Rex roasting. Can you kind of take us through the history of Rex roasting?
I can. It's an interesting thing. Most people don't really know what's going on with this coffee company. So, Rex Coffee was originally started by the Holman family in the 1870s for certain. They may have started development in the 1860s, but we definitely know in the 1870s there was stuff being called Rex Coffee. Rex Coffee originally. Do you speak Latin?
I don't.
Do you know what Rex means in Latin?
I do not.
It means a king or kings. So it was originally a king's coffee. So when you look at the Rex logo, it has a crown on it. So it means king or etc. That's where that comes from. So in the 1870s, they started a product, definitely by then, called a Rex Coffee, which they produced until 1968. And the coffee company was integral to Holman and Company's growth. If you look at any early cans of baking powder, before Clabber Girl, when it was called Clabber or Milk, those baking powders they're made by Holman Coffee Company, not Holman and Company. It actually predates Holman and Company by about 20 years. Sort of. The Holman and Company was partnered up with a lot of other companies over that time period. Coffee was such an important product to them, that's why they actually moved here. So this property was originally identified as a great place to build a coffee and spice mill, and by the time they were done, they had the property that you see now. Another one of my things that I am looking into in the Terre Haute and Wabash Valley area are distilleries. And one thing that's unique is we're not actually sitting in the coffee roastery. The coffee roastery is on the other half of this building. We're sitting in something called Holman and Beggs, which was a bourbon distillery and rectification plant in 1892-3 when they built this building. Yeah. Cool evidence of the Historical Society about that. I also have written some stuff about Holman and Beggs. Very, very cool story about how they started this, but it's also important because of coffee, because you look back 100, 150 years ago, it's rare to shut down a liquor manufacturer. However, they closed this and they moved all the coffee operations through this whole building. So we have historical photographs outside that will show 2 floors of coffee. And people who know, looking at the Holman building, there's sort of a suspended roadway between the 2 buildings. That led from the roastery to a whole floor of coffee storage, and then when they got rid of the distillation plant on that side where the rectification tanks had been, they turned that into another coffee storage room. So they actually sold so much coffee they closed the liquor company. So the coffee was, like I said, integral to the growth of this company at one time. But by 1968, they really needed to upgrade equipment. They were still using equipment they'd put in the 1890s. And to the best of our knowledge, they decided that rather than actually continuing to keep the coffee company open and upgrade and do all that was required there, they just shuttered it and closed it down, and unfortunately cut up the roasters, and yeah, which is a bummer because they're really cool. But
where does it pick up again?
Right, so in 2008, roughly, people here decided they look at some of the things that we could do, maybe bring back some other older ideas, coffee being one of them. So by 2009, they have the roaster installed, and they hired me. I came over here from a place that I was working before to take over and run this. Now, the difference is that when they roasted coffee here in the 1890s through the 1960s, the roasters, they could do about 3,600 pounds of coffee an hour. We can only do 78 pounds of coffee an hour because we are not a bulk commodity coffee company. We're a specialty coffee company. So we're focusing on high-grade coffees that are really great experiences to drink, that aren't, you know, they're mini value option coffees, but much better than what you're going to find pre-ground, pre-packaged in the grocery aisle. The interesting part of that is after we got the company rolling, I found a letter from Tony Holman Sr. about how the salespeople in this company in the 19-teens needed to stay focused on coffee. And all of the things in this letter could basically be transposed to now, to talk about quality, to talk about consistency, to talk about where they're sourcing coffees from. It's pretty amazing that 100 years ago, they were having the same conversation, albeit with less knowledge of what quality actually meant, but for the era, it was pretty impressive. So we opened wholesale coffee company, specialty grade coffees that we're focused on, and the idea being to revive something that just hadn't really happened in Terre Haute in at least 40 years.
So kind of walk me through what a typical day for you would be.
That's a good question. Well, a typical day for Rex Roasting Company, my assistant Nate and I come in and take all the samples we had from the roast the day before, and we set them out, and we do a process called cupping. And cupping is a quality control analysis of your roasts every day, and it's basically tasting the coffee. You put ground coffee in a cup, you add hot water on it, you sort of let it steep, scrape the top off, and then you drink directly from the cup with a spoon. And that is the most immediate way to assess flavor, body, acidity, quality of the roast, etc. Also, is the coffee getting old? Is it still fresh? It's our daily check and balance on everything that we do. That's how we start every day. And then from there, now that we are a two-man operation, where for 5 years or so it was only one person, basically. So we get orders in, prep our roast logs. I start contacting customers or go visit customers or all the other sort of business development side of things that I'm doing, and then we get the roaster going, and Nate starts roasting and packaging, shipping, etc. And then after we're done with those two things, generally come back together towards the end of the day, have a conversation about what's going to happen the next day, and what some of our targets might be. And he calls it a day, and I work a few more hours. So.
And everything from the roasting to the packaging to it going out for delivery, all done here on site.
Yeah, everything that is associated with Rex Roasting Company, Rex Coffee, all of those things, they generally start in here. Now, we don't do all of our marketing design, although we are involved in those conversations. And we don't necessarily do all of our accounting, although we are involved in those conversations as well. But all of the other production stuff, so if it's customer contacts, if it's going and helping customers with quality control issues, or with in stores or demos, or helping them with their customers, support, or what you asked, we roast it, we bag it, we weigh it out and blend it. We can grind coffee, so we do some ground coffees for some customers. All of that stuff happens in the roastery, basically. The only thing that you can't see that we do is that we have a coffee storage facility up in the main building, because we don't have enough space for all of the stuff we need here. So the coffee storage facility has all of our green coffee up there. The only manufacturing that happens in this room is we make the single serve cups.
Which we'll get to that in a moment. Kind of just jog through the list of where all you can find Rex.
Oh, that's a good question. Most people know that you can find Rex coffee at Baszler's, and the Baszler's have been a great partner of ours since we started. One of my very first customers, and we work pretty closely with them. So we have a brewed coffee area where Rex coffee is available, and we sell coffee in the grocery aisle there. We also work with their other two stores in Linton and Sullivan, so if you lived in Linton or Sullivan, you could get our coffees there. Here in Terre Haute, Square Donuts, we do all the coffee for Union Hospital, J. Ford's, Black Angus, Fifi's, our Akari Kitchen downtown now, and Brooke's Candy Shop. Brooke has been a long partner of ours as well.
They actually use it in the candy.
They use it in the candy. They use it both dried, like ground, liquid, and whole bean. So some of their candies have Rex Coffee 3 ways. Yeah, they're great to work with too.
And obviously here.
Yeah, here at the cafe, obviously, at the bake shop, at Clabber Girl, you can come buy it by the cup or whole bean in bags. And outside of this area, we sell at Whole Foods. We have worked with Marsh, the Motor Speedway, since that's a sister company. We work with them and do quite a bit over there, especially during race season. And then the thing that we are focusing on quite a bit right now is our online store, so rexroasting.com. And even people in this community can utilize that as a service. So our cafe closes at 3, and sometimes that prevents people from getting in here before they're closed in order to buy a bag of coffee. So on our online store, we sell 12-ounce and 2-pound bags, and people can come pick them up directly from us. They can come get them in the bake shop. That's great. If that isn't as convenient, or they want a larger serving, like a 2-pound bag, they can order directly from the website. We now offer a single serve option, and they are single serve cups. We get them from a company that provides us with this cup that is all the same material, which has a really unique advantage. Normal single serve cups cannot be recycled. So these, once you're done brewing them, you can actually pop the top open and dump the coffee out, and then this is entirely recyclable. And it's one of the things that we wanted to ensure before we started a project like this, that we were being as sustainable as possible. And since these little cups are the most ubiquitous form of single serve option at home, we felt like this was the best platform to go with. But in that platform, this particular one is recyclable. There's another advantage of them though too. A normal cup like this holds 9 or 10 grams of coffee. And if I held one up in the light, you could see that it would only be about that deep. These cups will hold somewhere between 12.5 and 15 grams. They'll have at least 12.5 grams in them. And depending on if it's a dark roast or a really light roast, and you would see it goes all the way, or almost all the way to the top.
More bang for your buck.
Yes, and a better flavor, because you're going to get a much richer flavor with more extractable material in there.
Where else, I mean, are you now by the box selling these?
We are. Baszler's. So, Baszler's is our test market for these, really. And I think that people can certainly go find them there. However, I think you'll see more presence of them there soon, too. You can buy them here, and you can buy them on the web store. So rexroasting.com has them for sale. That might be the best way for people who can't get in here before 3 o'clock, or who are looking for something that isn't normally offered. We'll do any of our coffees in the cups. However, we only offer 5 regularly. So we offer our Motor Speedway blend, Brickyard blend, Original Roast, which is the original Rex coffee, Double X, which is a dark house blend, a decaf version of our Original Roast, and we do French Roast. Those we have, they're basically always available. However, I should point out at Baszler's, they have their own blend, Baszler's blend, and then any other coffee, though, we can do in these. So if somebody wanted to order them online and contact me, we could do any of our coffees. I think we have 19 different coffees that we can roast right now. Now, those are also blended quite a bit, so we have more than 20 blends. And we didn't realize any of that until I started working on this new calculator and realized that, oh, well, there's a lot of blends we don't even use at this point in time. So a lot of things you just kind of know go well together. Brazil's go well with Central American coffees. Costa Rica's, Guatemala's, Mexico's, etc. Sumatras go well with darker roasted coffees, Brazil's, etc. The oldest coffee blend in the world is called Mocha Java, and it is a Indonesian and a Ethiopian Yemen. So the Mocha is kind of that area, Yemen, Ethiopia, and Java, the island of Java, where we get the name Java for coffee from. But in general now, that would be Ethiopia and Sumatra. So those things go really, really well together, earthy and super sweet. Knowing those things when you get started, what has like earth to it or a heavy body, what has a real fruity sweetness and maybe a really creamy body and acidity, something super, super acidic, maybe really citric. Knowing how those things pair together, you can kind of start, and then from there you basically trial and error. A
lot of drinking coffee.
Yeah, a lot of drinking coffee. And you're adding different things in. Sometimes it's not as much as like a 1-to-1 ratio, or subdividing the whole easily, like 2, 4, and 4. It might be 2.3, 4.7, and right. So that those components might go in to make it taste right. And that's where you get the fine tuning that can be a little crazy making.
What is, taking all the science out of it, what is your favorite part about coming to work every day? Like, what is the one thing you're like, oh my goodness, I get paid to do this, and that's so awesome?
That's a really good question. 7 years ago, I would have told you that coming to work every day was roasting coffee. Okay? And I still like to do that. However, it's much more fun and much more rewarding to help someone else learn how to do that. So one of the biggest things coming to work every day is that I get to work with Nate, and Nate's an awesome guy. Great coffee roaster, cool human being, makes the day awesome. Okay, that's internally, that's great. The other side of what is really cool about this job is that I talk to all kinds of people all the time. So we have customers in Jasper, we have customers in Mishawaka, just about the entire state. We have customers here in the Wabash Valley. I am working with someone in Hagerstown right now, so that's on the other side of the state. I have been to Richmond, working on projects in Richmond, and everywhere in between. And I talk to most of these people every week. So every week I talk to my customers in Marion and Peru, who are two of my best coffee shops. Just about every week I talk to my friend Josh in Jasper. We really cover a lot of territory that people here don't know. And those conversations are great. Helping people help their businesses be successful through what we do here is rewarding. So that's a really cool thing every day. Well, number one, most people don't know that we do most of our work outside of the Wabash Valley. So Union and Baszler's are big clients of ours. However, for outside of the Wabash Valley, we mostly work with coffee shops. And that's great. We get to sell people coffee that they're turning around and selling to dozens and dozens or hundreds of customers every day. And most people here don't know that we do that. I think that most people in the Wabash Valley, and particularly in Terre Haute, know that we have the roastery here, and they know that the bake shop is here. But that might be the extent of what they know. Maybe Baszler's, maybe etc. In little, maybe they go to J. Ford's and they get a coffee martini there or something. But essentially, people don't know that we do a lot of work outside of the community. Now, that's the immediate day-to-day thing. The other thing that people don't know, back to the history of this place, is that almost no one in the community of Terre Haute remembers that this was a distillery. And it's something that I found looking through, both at the Vigo County Historical Society, looking through their archives in the back, found an invitation to the opening day that this place was a business, which you should go find and look at. It's very, very cool. And looking through something called Sanborn maps. Since you're doing these things, you should look for Sanborn maps. So looking through Sanborn maps, Sanborn Fire Insurance Company made these maps of communities that showed the city's buildings. So all the buildings, houses, dwellings, etc. in the city will be listed by how big they are, what they're made out of, whether they have fire suppression in them. So a building like this, brick, stories, that it's already had sprinklers when it was built, etc. That's all on the map. But they publish them every few years. So you can go through a community and find out what was in buildings over a century. So in the 1890s Sanborn map at the library, this is Hallman and Beggs Wholesale Liquors. And that is a coffee and spice mill. And you can see where the roasters were, and you can see where all the stuff was. By 1908 or 1906, and it was in between the two, it was about 1900. We know they switched because there's no longer Holman and Beggs, it's all just Holman and Company, and it's all coffee roasting and spice milling. So people don't know that that's what this was, and that's super cool, being able to tell people, hey, this is what Terre Haute looks like now, but 120 years ago, Terre Haute actually had distilleries all up and down the river. And 100 years ago, they were getting ready to build what would become the largest greenhouse in the world here, where Davis Gardens was, which I just did a thing at Westminster Village about. So those are probably two of the things that people don't know, right? They don't know that what I work in used to be, they used to make bourbon here. And they don't know that we do a lot of work outside of this community. So every morning when we do our coffee cupping, we come in here and we analyze the coffee like I mentioned earlier. However, when we are getting ready to purchase coffee, we go a few steps deeper. And that is, we start by sample roasting all the products we get. We get these little bags with samples in them. And we sample roast this green coffee. We bring it in here. We set the cups out on the table. One of us, usually if we can find a third party to do it, will grind all the samples, and then we turn off all these lights and turn on the red lights, and then you can't tell what's dark roasted, what's light roasted, what any of the origins are. So it keeps you from being biased towards the coffees that you're getting ready to sample. Then after we're done with that, when we want to analyze it in the opposite direction and actually see what the differences are, we turn on the full spectrum lights we're sitting under right now. Normally these aren't on. They're mostly just used when we are doing really close analysis of new potential purchases or training people.